Hello Fearless Gamers, Matt here for Fearless Games, and today we are continuing on with our Joy of Painting minis, painting up a Vampire Count Lord here. And last time we finished up the sword here, putting on the highlights on the blade, highlights on the gauntlet and the grip, and the painting up the tassel here. And then we put some highlights and glazed over the cape, and we decorated up the base here and gave it a dry brush to kind of uniform it together. Might gonna go over it a little bit again because there is like a gap right around here just to help seal it up a little bit better. And we are pretty much done. We might be able to finish in this episode, and so let's jump right in and get started. We will be using the following paints that you see on your screen. And so, looking at this, I don't see any other bits that need to be done except for his little back piece here. So we are going to go on and get our gray paint, because I'm going to make that a gray fur thing. And so, with our gray color and a standard size brush, we are going to give that its very first coat. And like I said, model's almost finished, and to be honest with this, I'm not sure if I would go Vampire Count or not now. Like I said, I do have quite a few models for the army, but nothing substantial, nothing really that I could build a force off of. So I guess what I'll have to do is I'll have to play out and wait for the next edition to come out and see what ends up happening in terms of if Vampire Count is even still an army or what's going to go on. For right now, I think this Vampire Lord will be the only thing I have ready out of the gate to play with, unless I decide to use one of the other models in another episode of Joy of Painting Minis here. So that is underway to getting done, so I'm going to put that aside for now, and I'm going to finish up painting this bat that he has, because I never officially finished painting his wing. So let us take our black and finish him up. Alrighty, so now that is set and ready for the next stage, which will be painting up the whole thing. I'm going to make it a very simple color scheme because I don't want the bat to really, like, overshadow the Vampire Lord, so I'm probably going to do very simple color pattern scheme on. I'm probably just going to leave him mostly black with some gray fur and kind of have the gray fur scale down his back type of thing, and just kind of like do a very crummy gradient because I'm not good at gradients and wet blending and all that stuff. So we'll see what happens with that, but let's going to go back to this guy, and we're going to give that a black wash just to help emphasize all the nooks and crannies. And you also may notice throughout this video process, and also with Cypher and such, I have very random choice in what parts of a model I'll paint. It's usually, I don't have like a setup a lot of the times, unless I'm painting troops. When it comes to characters, like HQ units, stuff like that, I'm very random. It's usually whatever strikes my fancy at that moment is what ends up being what I end up painting. And I don't know why, but I think it's just that's how I work. That's how it just feels right, and that's what I like. So while I wait for this to wash, dry, and for the bat to dry there, I'm gonna fix up, well, help cover up those cracks in those pieces where the base and the display here separate, by putting in some extra dirt or texture paint, sorry. Okay. So now with that, that'll help just unify the base a little bit more. And it will cover up a little bit of detail on that skull there, but that's good, because I'd rather it be a little bit covered than have it look like the whole mound is separate from the base. I'd rather have the base be a uniform look. So that doesn't bother me. So now I'm going to move on to, let's see, anything else that we can do, because it's still a little early with the pieces here. Yes. Going to take a little bit of white, and with a fine detail brush, I'm going to add a little bit of extra white highlights to the sword here, because I find that white makes a nice silver, like, final highlight. Okay. So, there we go, and we'll just take a quick break here to let that dry, and in the meantime I'll get the paints that I need for the next step. Alright, so he's now ready for the next stage, which is going to be another light coat of Codex Gray. And gonna dry brush this on a little bit. Paying more attention to the lower end of the fur here, rather than the upper area. Okay. And then gonna do a light dusting, or dry brush, sorry, of the next color, the lighter gray. That way, brighten it up a little bit. And then, so we're gonna take our gray, brighten it up, remove a lot of the excess, so make a nice easy dry brush, and then I'm trying to focus more on like the tips of the fur pieces. Okay, and then we're going to do one final highlight of a really more bluish gray than anything. And then this is going to go right on the very like tips of the fur area. Okay, and then his little cape is done. Or little fur thing, whatever you want to call it. And so he is pretty much finished. Well, pretty much he is finished. Gonna move on to painting up this bat. Now, the bat, gonna leave mostly black, and I'm gonna paint up his fur here brown. So we're going to take a brown color using a detail brush because it is a very small area. And we're going to bring the brown down a little bit past down the tail here. Okay. Now, going to then take a slightly darker brown, a lighter brown, sorry. I think this one is a better brown. And going to very carefully just color in the near the ends like we did with the other one, like we did with the fur on the cape there. We're gonna put a little bit more emphasis on it near the back end of the bat and do like a very light coating near the top. And then again, trail it down. And like fan it out, that way it kind of like blends in to the tail. Then we're going to go with a lighter brown and do the same thing, but again, start lower on his body. That way it gives a little bit of like this pseudo gradient look to the body here. Give it a little bit on the tops of the head here, a little coat. And there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue his wing on. That way I can get a little bit of an idea of where to put some shadows on him. Shading and all that for the wings and all that jazz. So I'm gonna take this, bing, little dab of glue. Just a dab of glue will do. And attach his wing. Okay. So now that we got that, we can work on just gonna give him, let's see, work on the eyes a little bit. For the eyes, just gonna give him some little red, like pure red eyes, because he's gonna be an evil looking bat. So I get my fine detail brush out, because he does have very small eyes. Water it down just a little bit. That way I don't have to use too much paint to get them to go. Now, eyes are very tricky. That's why I'm painting them just pure red. That way I don't have to deal with pupils or anything. And in fact, gonna, while I'm at it, do the same thing for this vampire. He's gonna have bright red eyes to show that he's evil. Thankfully, he's kind of like squinting almost. So this actually is enough to get away with. And then going to paint his teeth. Now that's the funky thing about this character. He's got a small bit of teeth, and then he's got a tongue. And the tongue is like this draping out of him. So actually what I'm going to do first is I'm going to paint his tongue up, which I'm going to use this funky, like, purplish pink color for the tongue as my base. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and paint his teeth. It's going to use the same color that I used to paint his the vampire's teeth, which is this bone color. I guess beige-ish color. And I'm going to do the same for his... I'll leave the rest of him black. I'm going to make him a really black bat. Because again, I don't want him to stand out too much, because I don't want him to overshadow... I don't want him to overshadow the vampire. I want him to be just kind of like an add-on piece. So, with that, I'm going to then give his tongue a little bit of a pink color. To just help make it pop a bit. First time using this paint. Okay. It does look a little weird, but looking at images and such, this is what it's supposed to be. So he's just going to be a weird looking bat. And then going to give his teeth a little bit of a wash, just like we did with the vampire. Nothing too crazy, just enough to give the teeth some definition. Okay. Then we're going to glue him on to the back of the vampire. That way he can be attached. And, be attached. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. That way we can work on the rest of him without undoing the work we just did. So we're gonna glue him on. And as we wait for him to dry, we're pretty much near the end of this episode, so bring him around there so you can see him. And so we are going to end it here for today. Thank you all for watching, and next time, Fearless Gamers, we'll be done with this model. So until next time, Fearless Gamers, take care.